If there's one term that I can't decide whether or not I like, it's the term supermom. Like, on one hand, I get the draw, right? You're able to catch puke in your hands at a single bound and break up sibling fights with ease and still find the energy to dress yourself in something more than stretchy pants, please your partner, and, I don't know, lift your house with your pelvic floor. The idea of being able to do whatever the hell is thrown at you like it's a superpower is intense and heady. But on the other hand, it's not possible. Even batteries, whose sole purpose is to give energy with absolutely no takeback, run out eventually. Energy and focus and dedication are all finite, and we're often pressured into believing that the only parents worth their salt are the ones who ignore that fact. It's something that we really need to correct, both in society and in our heads. And my guest today has some great tips for doing so. I'm Ariana Bradford, and this is the NYAM Project Podcast. Hey everyone, what's up? As I've mentioned, I'm Ariana Bradford, and this is the NYAM Project Podcast, and you're listening to episode 14, That Old Supermom Myth. So I've already said it, and I'll say it again. We're not superheroes. We're not supposed to be superheroes. Having children, adopting them, fostering them, however we brought them into our lives, certainly is hard and rewarding at the same time, but it didn't suddenly lend us any so-called superpowers. It's kind of unfair to expect that it did, both for us and for our children. Dr. Raquel Muller and I agree greatly on this very thing. So much so, in fact, that we've both made it our life's work to spread the message. I with the NYAM Project, and she with her new program dedicated to helping mothers accept that they're still only human, called The Myth of the Supermom.
My name is Raquel Muller, and I'm a mom empowerment coach. I'm also a trained psychologist, originally from Panama City, Panama. I've been in the United States for about 30 years now. I'm married 21 years and have two children, 15 and 12. And my passion in life is to support working moms in reclaiming the woman within the mom, by which I mean to remember that they are human beings first and to nourish and grow and develop themselves as human beings so that they can bring their best forth in parenting, bring their best as a spouse, in their work, and in everything that they do in life. So some years back, I was working at a full-time job as a psychologist, and I found that even though my work situation was great, I had great supervisors, great colleagues, it was still very stressful just shuffling kids around and, staying involved with what was going on at school and then doing my work and the commute and, running the house and all of these pieces. And then it just got worse because I ended up in a different position where my commute was even longer. And again, it was a great work situation. However, I found that I was running around a lot. I didn't spend as much quality time with my kids as I really wanted to. In fact, I did a lot more yelling than I wanted to. I didn't like where I was. I didn't like myself very much as a mom. And I started to, around that time, this was around 2013, 14, and I was learning about this cognitive behavioral approach called TEAM. And I started to actually incorporate some of the stuff that I was learning with myself. And it really helped me to kind of shift my perspective and to be a lot kinder to myself. And I was doing a lot of comparing myself with other moms and kind of criticizing myself a lot for what I saw as parenting mistakes, etc. And, so when it came time to start my business, I thought about, well, first of all, it was a general practice. And then as I got involved in just searching for how do you run a successful practice, because I didn't know anything about that, the business aspect of things. And so I started to do a lot of reading about success and started to listen to a lot of coaches and the like. And so I started to learn about niching. And I started to ask myself, well, who is it that I really would love to support? Who do I most want to help? And it was pretty easy from there, landing on working moms, because I figure, it is a struggle. And I reasoned that I wasn't the only mom in that situation. And I also reasoned that there are probably a lot of moms out there who are, not necessarily needing therapy or wanting it, but could still benefit from these skills that I had learned. And so that's where that came about. And then of course, through this whole process of initiating my business, that has been a journey of growth personally for myself, even beyond the learning that I had done in my career as a psychologist. So in that, a lot of the stuff that I've learned through my own process of coaching, I've been incorporating into my work as well.
When you came up with the idea of the myth of the supermom,
yes.
When did that happen? What led to you realizing that that was something that needed to be taught?
Wow, that's a really great question. Actually, I'll tell you, when I started my work, I decided very early on in after starting my practice that I wanted to do coaching. And so I came up with this idea for a coaching program, teaching all these cognitive skills and stuff. And then I started working with a coach who turned me on to the idea of using speaking as a means to promote my business. And so I collaborated with a friend of mine who is a health coach. Actually, she's not a coach per se. She's in the health industry. She works with a company called Shackley. In any case, so she and I started to bounce around ideas. Let's do a presentation for moms, and what are we going to talk about, and what do we call it? And it was actually she who came up with the whole. I mean, we talked about the concept, right, of that. As moms, we feel like we have to do all of the things, and there's all this pressure, to keep it all together and to put your kids first, and all of these things. And, not that you don't need, you shouldn't need rest or whatever. Like, you're supposed to always be there no matter what. And so it's like, well, what do we call this? What is this thing? What name do we give it? And so we kind of came up with, that's like, yeah, the myth of the supermom. That's exactly what it is, And so then we did this talk called the myth of the supermom, and I kept it. And so ever since then, my spiel has been about the myth of the supermom and how to bust it. As I see it, so a supermom is like a superhero, right? Not only does she look well put together all the time and always looking hot, but she just, she doesn't need any rest. She doesn't need food or sex or she doesn't need anything, and she's always like ready to jump into action, right? And so how this translates to us is the expectation that we always put other people first, and most especially our children, and that we just have this unending supply of energy, and that we're supposed to, do everything, and not only do everything, but do it perfectly. So that's the myth of the supermom.
We all have ways we can remind ourselves of our humanity. For some of us, it's as simple as writing in gratitude journals or sipping a cup of tea in the morning. For others, it's about giving yourself grace when you fuck up. Whatever it is that you need, Raquel's got a system that will help you arrive to the conclusion that best suits you.
Well, I actually created a system that I call the woman system, WOMAN. And to me, that represents, once again, the idea that a mom is a woman first. And so the system, this acronym, it goes like this, that W is working on your mindset. So the mindset piece, includes, our beliefs and values, some of which may be serving, some of which may not be serving, and kind of taking a look at that. And also paying attention to the way in which we talk to ourselves. Again, that like inner critic voice that seems to always be there telling us when we're messing things up, we made a mistake, etc. And, just kind of shifting that to something more, that's more constructive, and really paying attention to our language and the way that we, the way that we think about ourselves and the way that we talk about ourselves. And then also, I think a lot of that mindset piece has to do with where we place our attention. Like, are we placing our attention on the things that are going well, or that we're doing well, or the things that we're not doing so well? Are we placing our attention on the kind of what our values are and what we want to, how we want to lead our families, or are we paying attention to what everybody else is doing and other people's expectations? So kind of, shifting to, what is it that we want to create, and not comparing ourselves, right? The mindset piece also, leads right into that whole mommy guilt phenomenon. I think that's definitely a mindset issue that, if I do things to take care of myself, things that are just for me, it's like you're committing a sin, right? You're not supposed to do that. That's, and, and that's not true. In fact, I think it's quite the opposite. So that leads me to the O in the woman system, which is operate from overflow. You can't pour from a cup that's empty. And I know I've heard you talk about that in previous episodes, right? It's you have to have, I think it was Emily Jones that, was talking about this whole idea of, you have to have something to give. And so what that entails is not only self-care from a physical perspective, like, going for massages and taking your vitamins and stuff like that. This is all great. And we also need to care for ourselves in the mental, emotional sense, spiritual sense, and doing the kinds of activities that are going to really feed us and nourish us in all of these aspects. And then the M has to do with mastering self-love and self-compassion. So again, that whole idea of appreciating ourselves as we are, which doesn't mean that we stop growing. We continue to grow, and appreciate that we have certain gifts, and we also have certain limitations, and that's okay. And I think the more that we love ourselves, the more capable that we are of loving others fully and without conditions. In the same way, I think the self-compassion piece is about giving ourselves grace when we're going through something difficult, which I think motherhood in the 21st century is super difficult, especially when you're also, trying to have a career or run a business alongside that. And I think that that's important, the self-compassion piece, and that the more that we can be compassionate with ourselves, the more that we deepen our compassion for other people, including our kids and spouses as well.
So that's adjusting your mindset, filling your personal cup, and learning to love yourself. Got it? Good. Let's keep going.
A in woman system is, I call it activate your awesomeness. And what that refers to is this whole idea that we all have a purpose to be in this world, which may or may not be completely fulfilled by being a mother. For myself, I have discovered that I love my kids, and I want more. I have like a mission, which is to support moms, right? That stuff really lights me up. It lights me up to not only do my coaching, but also to speak. I love that. And I want to continue doing those things. I think that there's a reason that desire was put in my heart. And I think equally, all of us have, a purpose to to be here, that we want to fulfill. And I think, in fact, that the idea of the supermom comes directly from that desire to do more, be more, have more, which is a beautiful thing, and it's a God-given thing. And we sometimes, what happens is that we get it mixed up with, I need to do, and do some more, right? When in reality, where the results really are going to come from is in the person that we are being, how we are showing up, the qualities that we want to embody and demonstrate. And so it's not in the doing of all the things, it's in who we're being at each moment. And that's part of the message that I love to give to moms. And I also think, in regard to this whole activate your awesomeness, that we need to have a vision for our lives. How do we want that to look, in the sense of, again, what kind of mother do I want to be? What kind of spouse do I want to be? How do I want to show up in those arenas? What kind of work really fills me up and lights me up, right? So, and having, kind of a vision towards which we're moving, sort of like a roadmap, right? Because otherwise we get caught up, I think, in all of the doingness of daily life. We get kind of lost in that, and there's not necessarily a purpose. And I think having a vision that connects with that purpose and the intent to live out that purpose, I think that's all encompassed in the activating our awesomeness that we all have inside. And then the N is for nurturing our relationships. So obviously, our relationship with ourselves, as well as also we need to have solid relationships with our significant others, which I think oftentimes we let it go because we are so involved with raising our kids and giving everything to them that we kind of put our spouses and our marriages on the back burner. And I think that's a mistake. And then also, I think it's really super important to make connections with a tribe, a group of supportive people. And I think especially for women, that we crave that connection with other women in particular, that connections that are genuine and authentic, and where we can be ourselves and we can bring our struggles as well as our triumphs, right? And, and having, people for support, and also to just hang out with and have fun, which is, again, goes back to being a woman, right? You're a woman. Of course, a woman, you need girlfriends, I don't know, I do. So that's the woman system. And so these are the elements that I think are really essential. However you go about putting those elements into play, I think that those are kind of the key pieces which address the whole person that is this woman who is a mother.
Let's say you're in this place where you're constantly struggling with your own humanity. Like, you get you're human, obviously, but you're also struggling hard with the fact that you can't do everything you've been told that you should be able to do. You want to get off this train, but you don't know how. You need a first step, and Raquel suggests that you do this.
So a first step that I often recommend to people is just carving out a little bit of time. And it could be in the morning. Oftentimes people like the morning because it's quiet. And so basically, like carving out, say, for example, waking up 15 minutes early while the house is still quiet, before everybody else gets up. And just having a few moments to be by yourself, whether that, enjoy a cup of coffee or just like maybe doing a little meditation. One thing that I do personally and I recommend is to take up a gratitude practice where we're kind of reflecting on, once again, what is it that's going well? What are the blessings that are present there? And gratitude is one of those things that the more you practice it, the more it deepens. And you start to become more and more aware of more things to be grateful for. And I think it's really important to have those moments of peace that are just for you, right? Uninterrupted, just to be by yourself. And similarly, another practice that, could be helpful is to schedule, for example, things like exercise. A lot of women tell me, well, I know that exercise really helps me. It helps me with my stress. I find that when I do exercise, I'm in a better mood, etc. And yet exercise is one of those things that often gets pushed to the back burner, right? Like, oh, well, I don't have time today, but it's so important for those things that really make you feel good. It's important to put those things on the calendar. Otherwise, they're not going to, it's less likely that they're going to happen, right? So those little, things, putting them in the calendar and making sure that they happen.
Oh, and in case you're wondering whether or not you're in that danger zone yet, or if you're wondering if you're in a good spot, we got you. Some good starting signs, according to Dr. Muller, are thus.
I think a lot of women, the first things that they talk about are, feeling overwhelmed. I've had many ladies express that they've lost touch with who they were before having kids. Sort of, they've started to feel like they're losing their identity, or that they've given up activities or friendships that they really valued in the midst of raising their kids. So those are, I think, some really classic signs that they're kind of disconnecting from the essence of their womanhood, right? Or their personhood, right? Who they are. And so I think that's why I like to talk about reclaiming the woman within the mom. It's so important to not lose sight of that woman. And I've had older women, even, more experienced mothers say to me, oh my gosh, like, where were you when I was raising my kids? I wish I would have had this kind of help, right? Or empty nesters who say, well, my kids, when they left the house, I didn't know who I was anymore. I kind of didn't even remember, what is it that I like? What were my interests? And so that's the kind of thing that I want to help prevent with younger generations of moms, right? And the really ironic part, though, is that because a lot of the moms with young kids are in that survival mode, they may not have that facility to see that they are losing themselves, right? Or that there is a different way, or that they really would do better to take care of themselves first.
Right.
The older moms who are more experienced, they get it quickly, right? Like, because they have the experience already. It's like, yeah, I've seen what can happen, right? If we just kind of let ourselves go and just devote ourselves to our kids. And so part of my mission, is to reach those moms that are earlier in the journey, so that we can prevent these things from happening, and be in a really solid place throughout the whole motherhood journey.
Right. And so on the opposite side of that, if you had to say that there was a sign that you see in your clients, that they see in themselves, that shows that they have kind of self-actualized and gotten to a point where they have reached the goal area there of accepting themselves as a whole person, what would you say that sign is?
Wow, yes. The first thing actually that came to mind is, here's a woman that knows to ask for help. Because one of the things that I think we forget is that we can't make it alone, and that's where we need to ask for help, and especially from our partners, right? Who are, assuming that there is one there, right? Like that partner is supposed to be a co-parent, right?
Right.
And a supporter. So I think, asking for help so that they can free up time to go, let's say, go to the gym or go on a girls' night out. Like, I think that's beautiful. When I hear that, it's like, wow, this is awesome. She's actually taking care of herself. And, going along with that is, again, I'm looking for, are they doing stuff that nourishes them, not only physically, but also spiritually? Like, are they, for example, engaging in reading or conversations with girlfriends that are mentally stimulating? Are they seeking to learn how to further develop themselves, their own, as a human being, right?
Right.
So those are, I think, really beautiful signs. And I think being able to also, when you hit the funk, is what I call it, right? When you're in that space of, everything that comes out of your mouth is a complaint, or nothing seems to be going right, or the kids are driving you nuts. It's like, I think a classic sign is also being able to acknowledge, okay, right now is I'm having a bad moment, and how can I turn this around, right? What can I do to support myself right now? And then turning it around relatively quickly, so that they don't stay in that space for hours or even days. Sometimes that can last. But I think the more that you can, kind of flip that and return to a state of feeling calm and feeling joyful and grateful, I think that's a really huge, what do you call it, post or whatever, I would say.
Raquel runs workshops and does live videos quite often on Facebook, so if you'd like to learn more from her, she makes sure her knowledge is available. You can check out her website to learn more at joyfulimperfectioncounseling.com or under the same name, Joyful Imperfection Counseling, on Facebook. Keep an eye out because she will soon be offering coaching to moms who need it. The NYAM Project podcast is written and produced by me, Ariana Bradford. You can find out more about us at wearenyam.com and on social media under the name The NYAM Project. Thank you very much to Raquel for offering us her time and expertise for this episode, and we'll see you next time.